lions and tigers and bears and ghosts. Oh my, it's the Real Estate Show. Welcome to the Real Estate Show. My name is Rick Naples. I'm the owner-broker of Zone Realty LLC. You zone your home. This show is the last in my series of problems and concerns that we've been talking about over the last few shows. This is about the unexpected. What about those unexpected things that come up during the real estate transaction? How do you deal with them? Well, the real estate transaction, realtors try to make the transaction go as smoothly as possible. And there's a lot of different moving parts, right? But sometimes there's unexpected things that come up. Now, there are rules and regulations as far as things that need to be disclosed. There are other things that do not need to be disclosed. And you're going to talk to your realtor about those things. I want to spend a moment to talk about particular people and certain expectations. And I'd like to spend a little bit of time here on the Unexpected Show to talk about animals. How do animals play into the purchase of a home? Well, I'm talking about domesticated and non-domesticated animals. If you're purchasing a home that comes with some land, you might want to ask the seller about the wildlife in the land. I mean, is the property a property that you need to be aware of bears? You know, here in Connecticut, at the filming of this show, we've had a lot of bears getting ready for hibernation. So they're out looking for food. They're getting ready to go in and hibernate. So sometimes bears can be a big concern. You might want to ask the seller, if you're buying acreage, have they seen bears around? What about deer? Simple things, rabbit, fox, so on and so forth. Why is that all important? Well, if you're a buyer and you're looking to purchase a home because you want the land and maybe you're a gardener, you kind of want to know what to expect. Those aren't items, obviously, you negotiate on, but those are things you want to know about the property, correct? Domesticated animals, cats, dogs, and so on and so forth. I once represented a buyer, and she had an allergy to cat dander. So every home we went to look at, we had to prefix it by asking the seller, do you have a cat? Have there been cats in the house? If the answer was yes, that was a home we didn't go look at because she had a very bad reaction to cat dander. Same thing with dogs. People sometimes, believe it or not, have fears of dogs. So the realtor is going to ask, is there a dog in the house? Where's the dog? What do you do with the dog? And so on and so forth before they go look at the property. Because maybe the buyer's uncomfortable being around the dog and they may not decide to go look at that home. But those unexpected things are things that you kind of could prepare for. But what do you do about the things that you cannot prepare for? Now, I'm filming this show from the basement of my home. This is where as you know, I paint part-time. I do abstract art, and I display a lot of my artwork throughout the basement area of my home as well as other parts of my home. And that kind of leads me up to the unexpected things that you may see when you're going to look at a home. I told the story on the Real Estate Show, since we're talking about animals, about the hunter. I had an avid hunter that was selling his home. And in the basement of his home, it was his trophy room. He was into taxidermy. He used to have a lot of the animals that he would hunt and subsequently kill, kept as trophies. He had, stuffed foxes. He even had a stuffed bear, deer heads, things along those lines, throughout the home. The buyer I showed the home to got quite freaked out when she saw all that stuff because she didn't want to buy a home that had quote unquote dead animals in it. All that stuff was going to be removed, obviously, when the seller left the home to transfer it to the buyer, but she felt that the home had bad karma to it. And she didn't want to buy a home that had dead animals in it. Some of the other unexpected things. I've had people ask me directly, the home that they're looking to purchase, is there any history about the home that we should be aware of? History on the home. I mean, you can go to the town hall, you can go to your local historical society. If it's an older home, you could probably look up history to see who previous owners were and who they were and what they did and so on and so forth. But what I'm talking about is people getting nervous about older homes especially old farm homes that have been around since the 17 or 1800s. If there's anything weird that they should be aware of with the home. I'm talking about hauntings, ghosts. The seller is not obligated to disclose that unless you as the buyer ask in writing about those things. Then the seller can answer you. But they're not up front going to tell you, oh yeah, my house is haunted. May bother people, may not bother people. Some of the other unexpected things go along with the show I was talking about as far as repairs. Now, you're purchasing a home, you've done inspections, you've renegotiated items and so on and so forth, and now you're moving into the home, you're living in the home. You're going to have some unexpected things happen when you move into the home. One of the things I like to talk about is noise. When you move into a new location, whether it's a house or it's an apartment, or you're moving in with a friend, you're a college student going off to the dorms, you're going on vacation and going to a hotel, the first experiences that you have when you're in that new environment are sounds. There's also smells, but mainly sounds. Every home has its own signature. It has its own voice. Now let me explain what I mean about that, because this goes along with unexpecteds. Floors creak, walls expand and contract, roofs, when they get hot, make noises. The water from the furnace going through the radiators makes noises. The boiler makes noises. The furnace makes noises. The radiators make noises. Sounds when the machines are running in the house, like the washers or the AC system or the fans and so on and so forth. And sometimes these are sounds that are new to a buyer. They're not used to this. They will get used to it, but they're not used to it. It's unexpected. I had a buyer once say to me after they closed on their home, they were kind enough to invite me to a housewarming party that they were having. So of course I went. And they were talking about the first couple of nights that they spent in their new home and how they found it very difficult, even though they were tired, to sleep because the house was making all kinds of strange noises. She said to me that it sounded like someone was walking around in the house at night. Her husband actually got up in the middle of the night to go and check to see if there was someone walking around, because they were hearing all these strange sounds. All houses have noises. We build a lot of our houses, unless it's made of stone, out of wood. And wood, when it heats up and it cools down, expands and contracts, and sometimes you hear pops and creaks. This is why sometimes walking on a floor, you're going to get creaks when you're walking across it. It's not structural issues, it's just normal. Takes a while to get used to that stuff. And sometimes, if we're not familiar with a sound, our minds are going to relay that sound to something that we know, that we're familiar with. This is why sometimes when floors are expanding and settling and cooling down at night and you hear those creaks, it sounds like someone's walking across the floor, and it really isn't anybody walking across the floor. It's just the floor doing its thing. It's the same thing in the yard. Sometimes you'll go out into your new yard and you'll hear noises that you maybe have not heard before. It could be unexpected sounds. Sometimes it's the neighbors making noises that you weren't familiar with. I've had the situation where one buyer said to me they didn't realize that the neighbor who lived next door drove a tractor-trailer truck, and sometimes, because these yards were, these were 3-acre lots, the neighbor was known to come home in his rig, and he'd come home at 3 o'clock in the morning and they would hear the rig pulling in. That was an unexpected noise, and they eventually got used to it. They weren't happy about it, but they got used to it. Sounds, like if you've never owned a home before, you know, you're going to be moving into a neighborhood. You're going to hear unexpected sounds in the neighborhood, whether it be sirens from police or fire trucks, or lawnmowers, people cutting their lawns, people out in their yards. One of the more common sounds that people get a kick out of, and I get a kick out of this in my own house. I live in a residential area, and our homes are all half-acre lots, but some of the homes have decks off the bedrooms, and a lot of times the homeowner, for privacy, will go out on the deck at night to talk on their cell phone, and they don't realize that when it's quiet at night and you're talking on a cell phone, that sound carries. So I've been privy to some conversations that I have nothing to do with, that I really don't want to hear about, while somebody's arguing with somebody over the phone late at night outside in their backyard. So sometimes it's nice to be able to go out into the yard and listen to the area, listen to the sounds. When I first bought my home, it took me a couple of weeks to get used to the sounds in my neighborhood. Trucks going by, cars driving by, people talking, people walking their dogs, dogs barking, the wind going through the trees, the sound of the rain on the roof, the creaks, the cracks, the pops, the bangs within the house. When the radiators fill with water for heat in the wintertime, they make a clang. You can hear the water running through the system. It sounds like the house is flooding out. It's not flooding out. It's just water going through the radiators. It's unexpected. It's things that I was not used to hearing because this is a new environment. Many of us have relayed stories where we've talked about, you know, when we go on a vacation. The first night is usually the most difficult night to fall asleep because you're hearing things, you're smelling things, you're experiencing things that maybe are not useful. And your mind is going to attach those sounds to things you're familiar with. You may hear a noise in the house and you'll think it's something else that you're familiar with, but it's not. It's something new. It's an unexpected thing. Moving into a new environment is always a challenge because you have to get used to your new surroundings, the new sounds. Smells are also a big part of the new environment. They're unexpected things, right? You may move into a home that was a home that maybe the homeowner was a heavy smoker. The house has been cleaned, it's been fumigated, but smoke smell tends to get itself into everything. I once owned a home where the previous owner was a long-time smoker, and one of my unexpected things was I was cleaning out some cabinets in the garage that I hadn't gotten to because I moved into the home and set up house, and the garage was kind of the next project to do. And I remember opening up cabinets in the garage and smelling the cigarette smoke because the smoke had gotten into the garage cabinets and kind of just stayed in that wood. The house was thoroughly clean, but it was unexpected for me to smell cigarette smoke in the cabinets in the garage as well as anywhere else. You may have a home that, unexpectedly, you go to tear up carpets and you find that there are water stains on the floor or animal stains on the floor, or here's the reason why this room has wall-to-wall carpet in it, because the floors are crappy underneath. That's an unexpected thing. I've had buyers say to me, well, if I go into a home and it's all carpeted, and the description, the data says there's hardwood flooring under the carpet, can I, before I decide to purchase the home, peel back the carpet and look at the conditions of the floor? Yes and no. If the home is vacant and the selling agency has mentioned there's hardwood flooring underneath the carpet, usually the realtor, with permission of the seller, will peel back a portion of the carpet and leave it folded back so that you can see the floor underneath. But you're not going to go pulling all the carpet up to look at the floor underneath. It's not your home. You can't do that. If you do that in the remodeling, it is what it is. Sometimes you peel back carpet and there's an unexpected damage or stain or whatever that's going to need patching or repairing. Those are good unexpected items. The bad unexpected items are those items that turn up that you were not prepared for. This goes back to two of the previous shows that I did when I talked about home inspections. This is about being prepared for those items. There are certain items when you purchase a home that are going to need tending to, and you have to be willing to be able to realize that you're going to have to do those things so they don't catch you by surprise. If the home inspector tells you the furnace is at the end of its life expectancy, the air conditioning system is at the end of its life expectancy, it's going to need to eventually be replaced, don't let that become an unexpected item. Realize that that's something that's going to have to be done and prepare for it. Put money aside, be prepared to replace that item when it needs to be replaced. I just recently had my new neighbor, purchase the home. They bought this home, they overpaid for the home, and they were only in the home for 2 weeks and the central air conditioning system died. That was unexpected. That was something they weren't prepared for. As a brand new homeowner buying their first home, the inspection report showed that the air conditioner at the time of the inspection was working fine. There was no problems with it. It was only a 6-7-year-old system. It was in good condition. The inspector signed off that it was working fine. It was doing what it was supposed to do. But when they moved in, the air conditioning system just seized up. It stopped. It was unexpected. The seller was unaware of it. The inspector didn't see anything wrong with it. Things happen. It was unexpected, but they were able to get it fixed and subsequently get it working to enjoy the end of the summer with air conditioning in their home. Gutters. How many of us, when we purchase a home, actually look at the gutters? We hope that the home inspector goes up on the roof and looks at the condition of the roof, the flashing around the chimney, if there's a chimney, and so on. Looks at the gutters. Are the gutters draining correctly? Are the gutters filled with soil? In my case, I have a lot of pine trees in my backyard, so my gutters fill up with pine needles and pine cones all the time. Yes, I know there's gutter guards and all this different kind of stuff you can do, to do that, but I actually enjoy getting up on a ladder and cleaning my gutters. I live in a ranch home, so it's only one floor. But again, that was unexpected. I did not expect. The previous owner had not cleaned the gutters for years. The gutters actually were full. They were completely full of debris from over the years from the pine trees. He'd never had the gutters cleaned. The inspector wrote on the home inspection report that you may want to have your gutters cleaned when you move in. And I was purchasing a foreclosure home, so it became a non-negotiation point. So it was one of the first things that we did. We had all the downspouts cleared out, the gutters cleaned, and so on and so forth. Unexpected, but kind of inspected. What was unexpected was during a heavy torrential downpour, the gutters are not of the right size to accommodate the flow of the water coming off the roof. So the gutters tend to overfill. They're not draining fast enough. So one of the future projects that I'm going to need to do is I need to put a better drainage system in so that those gutters can handle the water coming off the roof. Unexpected, expected, a cost, something that I'm going to have to do. Other unexpected things could be just the house itself. You always have fun when you go into your new home of trying to figure out what light switch works for what light. I once owned a home where there were no ceiling fixtures. There were just the plugs on the walls. So I didn't realize that one of the plugs was actually connected to a switch on the wall. You had to turn the switch on in order for the plug to work. And that was done so you could put a lamp, a floor lamp, in the room that you would be able to turn on by a switch in the wall. So if you came in the house and it was dark, you could put a light on. It was kind of fun trying to figure out what plugs worked to what switches and what plugs were on what circuit. That's a fun thing for you to do. Go down, look at the circuit box, try to figure out where the circuits are, what circuit breaker runs, what plugs, what switches, what appliances, and so on and so forth. Very easy if a circuit should trip to be able to turn it back on because you can see that it's tripped. But again, you kind of want to learn. So if you're going to do anything, you know how to shut power off. You want to make sure you know how to shut the water off in the house, how to shut the power off in the house, what to do if the furnace doesn't work or the heating system doesn't come on, and so on and so forth. Prepare for the unexpected. Realize that living in a new home, whether it's brand new construction, whether it's an older home that you're rebuying from someone else, whatever the situation is, there's going to be some unexpected situations. I can't tell you how many times I drove by my own house. It was a situation where I'm new to the neighborhood. My house is on a busy street. You got to know where the driveway is in order to slow down to be able to turn into the driveway because of the oncoming traffic. And I've actually, because I've been looking where I'm going, have actually drove by my driveway. That was unexpected to me. That's, how do you miss your own driveway? Really? Come on. But it happened to me a couple of times until I learned what to look for specifically. And I actually tell people when they come over to visit me, look for this. Right after that is where my driveway is. So slow down when you see this so you have time to be able to turn into my driveway. Otherwise, you're going to drive right by it. I've had different people come to the house over the years to give me estimates on different work I want to do, and they do that. I've watched them drive right by the driveway. That was unexpected. It was also unexpected for the sounds on the roof of the house. I have big, huge, tall pine trees in my backyard. And we had a year just recently where we got a bumper crop of pine cones. You know, a pine cone falling off a tree from 100, 200 feet in the air, being blown and coming down and hitting the roof of the house, sounds like a rock hit the roof of the house. You hear this bang sound. It's like, what the heck was that? It turns out that it was a simple little pine cone hitting the roof. So I had to get used to that sound, especially during a windstorm when the pine cones would blow off all over the yard and hit the roof and hit the side of the house. I'd hear these bangs all the time. What's that? It was just pine cones hitting the house. Nothing serious. Nothing to be worried about. Unexpected. Unexpectations, or things that are unexpected, sometimes are fun. Sometimes they enlighten you. They make you realize that this is normal, this is okay, and you get to learn the smells, the sounds, the different things the home makes. You get to learn the area where everything is, what your neighborhood's like, the sounds of your neighbors, the sounds of the street, the sounds of the retail operations around you. So unexpected things can sometimes be good, and they can sometimes be a challenge. My best advice to every buyer when they buy a home is always be prepared for the unexpected. My name is Rick Naples, and this has been The Real Estate Show. I thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.
The water's warm at Jaws Pond, and we're stocked full of treasures. Big or small, we buy it all. We buy and sell fast rides, power tools, vintage guitars, and so much more. Walk the plank in style with our fine jewelry, diamonds, and watches. Plus, we have a huge selection of the latest video games, including the new PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X. Jaws Pond, conveniently located on Meriden-Waterbury Turnpike in Southington and West Main Street in New Britain.
Hi, I'm Jay McCormick, a board director at Nutmeg TV, your local public TV station right here in Farmington. Nutmeg TV has been an integral part of our community for over 30 years, providing a platform for residents to share stories, voice concerns, and celebrate achievements. It's a vital resource that connects us all, bringing countless local events to our TV screens. The topics are limitless and vary from being aware of scams to veterans helping veterans. Nutmeg TV continues to be here for the community. To continue this important work, we're asking for your support through a donation. Your contribution will ensure that Nutmeg TV remains a robust and relevant resource for our community. Thank you for supporting Nutmeg TV. Together, we can continue to amplify the voices and stories that make our community unique and vibrant.
To make a donation, simply visit our website at nutmegtv.com or call the office at 860-321-7405 for assistance.